Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a topic today that's been generating a lot of buzz Kiwi birds, those flightless icons of New Zealand. Specifically, those teeny wings. Do they have any purpose at all? Or did the Kiwi ever actually fly?
Ah.
To tackle this, we've gathered a pretty interesting mix of sources, from Maori legends to some recent scientific papers, and even a few things we dug up from the museum archives.
It's fascinating how much our understanding has shifted, even in the last few decades. I mean, used to be, we thought Kiwis evolved from ancestors that, just walked to New Zealand. But now, with DNA evidence linking them to the extinct elephant birds of Madagascar, well, the whole story takes flight.
Yeah, imagine Kiwis and elephant birds, those giants sharing a common ancestor. It completely changes the picture. But before we get lost in the science, you know me, I always love a good story. And there's this Maori legend that offers a completely different perspective on the Kiwis' lack of flight. It's not just some whimsical tale. It actually reflects their deep cultural importance, how they fit into the whole ecosystem.
And the interesting thing is, the legend doesn't frame it as a loss. It's more like the Kiwi gains something even more important, becoming the guardian of the forest. So the story goes, Tane Mahuta, the god of the forest, needed someone to protect those trees from, like destructive insects. He asked all the birds to come down from the sky and live on the forest floor. But every bird, you name it, Tui, Pukeko, they all had excuses. Afraid of the dark, didn't like damp feet. It's kind of funny, actually.
But the Kiwis, brave little Kiwi stepped up.
Well, one and only.
What a sacrifice it must have been. I mean, giving up those beautiful feathers, the ability to fly, even the sunlight. But in return, they got those powerful legs for digging, for foraging, becoming the forest's champion.
Exactly. And the legend really captures that, the nocturnal nature of the Kiwi's strength. It's been passed down for generations, highlighting the importance of selflessness, that deep connection to the land. And it almost foreshadows what science is now uncovering about their adaptation.
It really does. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and dive into the science. For a long time, scientists thought the Kiwi evolved from a flightless ancestor that walked to New Zealand, back when it was still connected to that supercontinent, Gondwanaland.
Millions of years ago.
Right. The idea was that New Zealand was already isolated by the time birds were evolving flight, elsewhere. That was the prevailing theory for a while. But that's how science works, right? New discoveries can completely turn things upside down.
Enter the elephant bird.
That's where things get really interesting. DNA evidence shows a close link between our little Kiwi and these massive flightless birds that roamed Madagascar until 1,000 years ago. I mean, Madagascar, well, let's just say it's about as far away from New Zealand as you can get.
It boggles the mind. I mean, two flightless birds separated by thousands of miles of ocean. They share a common ancestor, one that had to be capable of flying vast distances. This ancestor likely dispersed to both Madagascar and New Zealand.
So picture this. Kiwi ancestors soaring across the skies. They weren't always confined to the ground. But then, why on earth would a bird give up something as advantageous as flight? Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It does, right. But to make sense of it, we have to consider the environment in ancient New Zealand. Imagine. Tons of food on the ground, no ground-dwelling predators, just those that could fly. Eagles, owls, that sort of thing.
So basically, it was safer on the ground than in the air.
Exactly. Plus, flying takes a ton of energy. Think of it like, I don't know, the fuel cost for an airplane. Not cheap. Giving up flight meant the Kiwi could conserve all that energy and just focus on foraging for food right there on the ground.
So not flying was actually a brilliant strategy for them. It wasn't a disadvantage at all, but an adaptation that helped them thrive in that environment. It really shows you evolution isn't about being the best in some universal sense. It's about finding the best fit for where you are.
Exactly. It's a reminder that evolution isn't some straight line of progress. Sometimes it's about losing traits to gain an advantage in your niche.
Okay, so Kiwis had flying ancestors, settled in New Zealand, and adapted to a life on the ground. But how did their bodies actually change to fit this new lifestyle? What made them the Kiwi we know today?
Well, the most obvious is those powerful legs. We even talked about them in the legend.
Right, the forest god's gift. It's amazing how much detail those Maori storytellers picked up on.
It shows how deeply they understood nature. But the legs are more than just strong. Over time, their bone structure evolved, to support their weight, to give them leverage for digging and ripping apart logs.
And they lost those bright, flashy feathers.
No, exactly. They traded in the colorful plumage for these muted browns that help them blend in with the forest floor, especially at night. Camouflage taken to the next level.
And those tiny wings, they're practically invisible. Hard to believe those were once powerful enough to carry their ancestors across oceans.
They're like echoes of a bygone era, a reminder of that incredible journey. Pretty much useless for flight now, but they prove how powerful natural selection and adaptation can be.
So wings for a life on the ground. But they gain so much more in the process. One door closes, another opens, right? What other adaptations did they develop?
Well, their sense of smell, incredible, which is unusual for birds. They've got nostrils right at the tip of that long beak so they can sniff out insects, worms, all hidden under the soil.
It's like they traded their wings for a super-powered nose. Masters of foraging in the dark, relying on smell more than sight. And it all lines up with the Maori legend, doesn't it? Strong legs, camouflaged feathers, they had an incredible sense of smell. It's almost like the legend predicted the science.
Isn't that cool? It's a great example of how different ways of knowing traditional stories and science can come together to give us this richer picture.
Couldn't agree more. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, both illuminating different aspects of the kiwi. But we can't forget this adaptation to a flightless life. It also made them vulnerable when new predators showed up.
Absolutely. New Zealand's isolation was a double-edged sword. Millions of years, no natural ground-dwelling predators, which is why the kiwi thrived. But then humans arrived, and they brought along some unwanted guests. Rats, stoats, cats, all these mammals that had a devastating impact, especially on kiwi eggs and chicks.
What a tragedy. So all the things that made them successful in isolation became a problem.
Classic example of how a species' history can shape how vulnerable they are to change. Kiwi. No flight, nesting on the ground. Easy targets. Plus, their eggs are huge compared to their body size, so even more vulnerable.
Makes you realize how delicate ecosystems can be. But I understand there's some major efforts underway to protect them, right?
Oh yeah, there are some incredible initiatives across New Zealand. A big focus is predator control, trapping, baiting, even specially trained dogs, sniffing out and removing those predators from kiwi habitats.
So it's like this constant battle trying to outsmart those invaders.
Exactly, and they're getting pretty good at it. In some areas, the chick survival rates have gone up significantly thanks to predator control. Habitat restoration is another big thing, planting native trees, creating safe spaces for kiwi to nest and raise their young.
Like giving them back the forest they were meant to protect. And I imagine this involves working with the local communities.
Absolutely. Maori communities have always had this profound connection to the kiwi. They play a vital role in these efforts. Their knowledge, their practices, it's invaluable for understanding kiwi behavior and finding ways to protect them. It's this awesome partnership, science, conservation, and indigenous knowledge.
That's fantastic. It just shows you when people come together with different approaches, we can make a real difference. Are there any other initiatives that stand out?
Yeah. Kiwi breeding programs where they raise eggs and chicks in protected environments until they're big enough to fend for themselves. Then they release them back into the wild. It helps boost the wild populations, gives them a better chance against predators.
Like giving them a head start in a world that's become much more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about increasing their chances of survival. And genetic research is playing a bigger role now, too. By studying kiwi DNA, scientists can track populations, see where genetic diversity is low, and then make better decisions about, translocations and breeding programs.
So science is giving us the tools to really understand them and then tailor our conservation efforts to their needs.
Absolutely. It's a testament to human ingenuity, right? Our ability to solve these complex challenges. But conservation isn't all about high-tech solutions, It's about what we do as individuals, those everyday choices that lessen our impact on the environment.
Totally. Even small things can add up. Thinking about where our food comes from, cutting down on plastic, supporting sustainable practices, those all help create a healthier planet for kiwi, for all species, really.
Every little bit counts, and it all comes back to choice. By making conscious choices in our daily lives, we can create a world where kiwi and all these amazing creatures can thrive.
It's that ripple effect, right? Every action, no matter how small, it creates these waves of positive change.
Precisely. And the kiwi. It's more than just a bird. It's a symbol of resilience, of adaptation, that interconnectedness of all living things. By protecting the kiwi, we're protecting a vital part of New Zealand's heritage, this unique piece of our planet's biodiversity.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredible. From those ancient legends to these cutting-edge discoveries, we've explored so much. Their evolution, their adaptations, those challenges they face. The powerful legs, the superpowered nose, the nocturnal life, their dedication to family.
It's been quite a journey. Hopefully it sparks some wonder, some appreciation for this remarkable bird and all the incredible diversity we have on Earth.
Definitely has for me. I've got a newfound respect for the kiwi and a much deeper understanding of how evolution works, those intricate details.
And the cool thing is, the journey doesn't end here. There's always more to learn, more questions to ask, more wonders to uncover out there in nature.
I love that. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the kiwi. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and hold on to that sense of wonder.
And keep those questions coming. We love to hear what you're curious about. Imagine you're looking at a kiwi skeleton right next to, oh, I don't know, a hawk's. The differences would just jump out at you. Kiwi bones, they're so much thicker, denser, especially in the legs. That extra weight, it helps keep them grounded, and gives them the strength they need for all that digging. Over time, their leg bones change shape too. Shorter, more robust, with these bigger attachments for muscles so they can generate more power.
Evolution really did a number on their skeleton, shaping them to fit that lifestyle. So while their ancestors were up in the air, kiwis were busy becoming these powerful diggers, perfectly adapted to their little world. It's kind of ironic, though, that the very thing that made them so successful, no ground predators, it ended up making them vulnerable when new ones showed up.
Yeah. Millions of years of isolation, that's why the kiwi did so well. But then humans came along, and they brought those mammals with them. Rats, stoats, cats, all those introduced predators. And they had a devastating impact, especially on the eggs and chicks.
So sad. It's like their greatest strength turned into a weakness overnight.
Right. It's a good example of how a species' evolutionary history can make them more or less vulnerable to change. The kiwi. No flight, nesting on the ground. Easy targets for these new predators. And their eggs, remember, proportionally huge compared to their body size, so those were especially vulnerable.
Makes you think about how fragile these ecosystems can be and how our actions, even if we don't mean to, can have these huge consequences. But there are some serious efforts to protect kiwi populations, right? What's being done?
Oh, absolutely. There are some fantastic initiatives going on in New Zealand. Predator control is a huge one. It's a whole combination of things. They're using traps, setting out bait. They've even got specially trained dogs that can sniff out those predators and help get them out of kiwi habitats.
So it's like this ongoing game of hide and seek, trying to stay one step ahead of those invaders.
You got it. And they're getting pretty good at it, too. In some areas, they've seen some pretty big increases in kiwi chick survival rates, all thanks to predator control. And then you've got habitat restoration, which involves planting native trees, creating these havens, for kiwi to nest and raise their young.
Giving them back the forest they were born to protect. I bet this involves working closely with the local communities.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maori communities, they've always had this deep, deep connection to the kiwi, and they play a key role in all the conservation efforts. Their knowledge of the land, their traditional practices, it's so valuable for understanding kiwi behavior and finding those effective ways to protect them. It's this beautiful thing, science, conservation, and indigenous knowledge all coming together.
It's really inspiring. Shows you that when we combine different approaches and people work together, we can actually make a real difference. Are there any other initiatives that are particularly effective?
Well, you've got these kiwi breeding programs where they raise eggs and chicks in these protected environments until they're old enough to, fend for themselves. Once they're big enough, they release them back into the wild. It really helps to boost those wild populations, gives them a fighting chance against those predators.
It's like giving them a little head start in life, a chance to thrive in a world that's gotten a lot tougher.
That's a great way to put it. And then another thing, genetic research is becoming more and more important for kiwi conservation. Scientists can actually study kiwi DNA to track populations, to see where genetic diversity might be low. And then they can make smarter decisions about, moving birds around or setting up those breeding programs.
So science is giving us the tools to understand them on a deeper level, which helps us tailor those conservation efforts to their specific needs. It's amazing how we can use these scientific advances to protect them.
It really is. It's all about human ingenuity, right? Our capacity to find solutions, even for really complex challenges. But conservation isn't just about fancy technology. It's also about what we do every day. Those choices we make that reduce our impact on the planet.
That's so important. I mean, even the little things can add up. Thinking about where our food comes from, cutting down on plastic use, and choosing those sustainable practices, all those things can help create a healthier planet for kiwi and everyone else.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts. It really comes down to those daily choices. By making conscious decisions in our lives, we can build a world where kiwi and all these amazing creatures can actually thrive.
There's that ripple effect we were talking about. every action, no matter how small, can have these huge effects down the line.
Exactly. The kiwi, it's more than just a bird. It's the symbol of resilience, of adapting to change, and how interconnected we all are. By protecting them, we're protecting a piece of New Zealand's history, this unique piece of our planet's biodiversity.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been so insightful. From those ancient legends to those cutting-edge discoveries, we've covered so much. The evolution, those adaptations, all the challenges they face. Strong legs, superpowered nose, their nocturnal life, their dedication to family.
It's been a fantastic journey. I hope it sparked some curiosity, some appreciation for this amazing bird, and for the incredible diversity of life we have on our planet.
It definitely has. I've got this newfound respect for Kiwi now, and a much deeper understanding of how evolution works, all those details.
And remember, this isn't the end. There's always something new to learn, new questions to ask, and new wonders to uncover out there in nature, so keep exploring.
Absolutely. So true. Okay, we've talked a lot about the physical changes that Kiwi went through over millions of years, but did their behavior change too, as they adapted to that flightless life?
You know what? That's an excellent question. And the answer is a big yes. Their behavior is just as fascinating as all those physical adaptations. One of the biggest changes you see is, well, their lifestyle. They're nocturnal. Remember how that Maori legend talked about the kiwi losing its ability to see the daylight? It's not that far off, actually. As they adapted to life on the forest floor, all that food but danger during the day, they became more and more active at night.
So they basically traded those sunny skies for the shadows of the forest, embraced the darkness.
Yep, and their senses changed to fit that. Eyesight, not so great. But their sense of smell, their hearing, those got super sharp. They could navigate and hunt in almost total darkness.
It's like they took what could have been a weakness and made it their strength, using those other senses to thrive in a world where, most birds are asleep.
You got it. Masters of the night adapted to this whole sensory world that's so different from ours. And another cool adaptation is their mating system. They're monogamous. Kiwi pairs, they form these really strong bonds, sometimes lasting years, even a lifetime.
Wow. That's not very common for birds, is it?
Not really. Most birds are either polygamous, meaning multiple partners, or they just pair up for a single breeding season. But kiwi, those long-term relationships, it's probably an adaptation to their environment. It's tough out there. Plus, raising chicks takes a lot of energy.
So sticking together increases their chances of successfully raising those, what do we call them, oversized eggs.
Exactly. And they share those parenting duties, too. Both males and females, they take turns incubating the egg, which, by the way, is proportionally the largest egg of any bird in the world.
No wonder they need to work together. It's like carrying around a football.
It's amazing, right? A real testament to how dedicated they are to their offspring. They put so much into raising that single chick, so sharing the responsibility is crucial.
So nocturnal, monogamous, shared parenting. The kiwi has this whole set of behavioral adaptations that make them perfectly suited for their environment.
It really shows you the power of evolution. It shapes not just their bodies, but also how they act, how they interact with the world.
It's interesting. The kiwi kind of challenges how we think about success in the animal kingdom. We often think bigger, stronger, faster, being dominant. But the key, they show us that sometimes success is about specializing, becoming incredibly good at what you do, even if it means being different, even losing abilities that seem important.
That's a great point. The kiwi, in its own unique way, it reminds us that diversity is what drives evolution. There are so many different paths to success out there.
It's like they're saying, we might not fly, but we rock at being kiwi. In a world that often pushes conformity, their story is a good reminder to embrace those unique qualities and find your own way to thrive.
Love that. It's a lesson for all of us, right? Whether we're talking about birds or our own lives. Sometimes letting go of what we think we need can open up a whole new world. Help us discover strengths we didn't even know we had.
So well said. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. Ancient legends, cutting-edge science. We explored their evolution, their adaptations, those challenges they face, their powerful legs, their incredible sense of smell, that whole nocturnal lifestyle, their dedication to family.
It's been quite a journey, and I hope it's left you with a sense of wonder, some appreciation for this remarkable bird and just how diverse life on Earth really is.
It definitely has for me. I have a whole new level of respect for the kiwi now. And I understand so much more about evolution and how it all works.
And that's the thing, the learning never stops. There's always more to discover, more questions to ask, more to be amazed by out there in the world.
Absolutely. Well, a huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the kiwi. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and never lose that sense of wonder.